Yeah, that was cool. So I think people may have seen the real-time video all the way down to the splashdown. And then the other thing we're hoping to achieve is obviously a more robust heat shield. So last time the ship actually did make it to the Pacific Ocean, or kind of like the border of the Indian and the Pacific Ocean, and it did light the engines, and actually the ship did achieve a soft landing, but we lost a lot of heat shield tiles, and it's kind of amazing that the ship did make it to a soft water landing, and that it made it all the way to the surface and also splashed down intact. However, because of damage to because of lost tiles, and I mean basically I like two skeleton. The forward flaps were so melted, they were like trying to control with like little skeleton hands. But it managed to make it, but it didn't get to the exact right location. So because it lost the control authority, it was about, I think, 6 miles or so off course from its landing location. So this time, obviously, we want the heat shield to survive intact, and the flaps to have full control authority and land at not just land softly in the ocean, but land at the exact right location. The ship landing is the tough part, meaning like that's because the ship has a heat shield and it's really designed to survive entry, not to sort of vaporize. It comes down very much intact, and so we need to make sure that for the ship that the reliability of the heat shield is extremely high, and that the flaps and that it can steer to a very precise landing location. Because if it were to break up, heat shield is super robust and lands at the exact right location. So before we try to bring the ship back to the launch site, we'll probably, I think, want to have at least 3 success of the ship heat shield remaining intact on this upcoming flight, assuming nothing else goes wrong.
So one thing I did want to comment is actually the Takeover is actually, you're coming through Starlink right now. So all the work that SpaceX is doing, it's all through Starlink.
It's Starlink here too. It's Starlink.
Starlink connected Starlink.
Yeah, I'm testing the Starlink Mini as well. So I'm like alternating between the main Starlink dish and the Starlink Mini dish. Now, to be clear, the Starlink Mini dish is not as good as the regular dish because it's a smaller antenna. Just to be clear, like the Starlink Mini is not exactly the same as the other one, but just smaller.
Backpack size.
It's like you give up a little bit of antenna area but it's extremely portable. So it's like, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the weight of the regular one, but and you'll get about half the bandwidth. So it's sort of, it's power to weight. It's like ability to weight ratio is really good. It's and then you can just put it in a backpack, take it anywhere you want. I think it'd be pretty good as a sort of a backup device for emergency services. Actually, a lot of sort of first responders and emergency services are looking at having that as just because it's so easy to just put on a vehicle. In fact, I know people have put it on Teslas, which is pretty cool.
We have Cybertrucks here with them literally stationed on them. Shout out to Tesla Tino and some of the other ones.
Yeah, but I think like the Starlink Mini especially is because it's so portable and easy to put in places. It's just great for emergency services, or if there's like forest fires, floods, natural disasters, which take out where you lose the ground fiber and you lose the cell towers, then you still have access to the internet with Starlink.
So, Elon, we're in the market for a Starlink Mini. So 2 thumbs up, good reviews. How do you like it so far?
It's good. It's a new product, so we're just like ironing out little things here and there. But so far so good. It's looking good. I think it'll be a huge seller, and also it costs less to manufacture. So that means the terminal cost, I think, might ultimately get down around a couple $100, which makes it accessible to many parts of the world where the more expensive terminal is unaffordable. So this should be affordable for much of the world.
Well, I can't wait to get out to South Padre Island for selfish reasons and have the Starlink Mini to cover this live. But what's incredible is just the access that Starlink is. You can go anywhere in the world and have access. Like, the gap for knowledge is no longer going to be an issue in some of the most remote places. So even making it more accessible with Starlink Mini is just insane. Quickly back to the Starship 5. So Starship 4 happened. I was there live on Isla Blanca Park. And then even going through the Star Factory tour, just what you guys are doing at Starbase is incredible, and how fast you iterate and make changes on the fly as it's, each day that goes by, it feels like a century maybe at other places because of how much you guys are changing. What, outside of the heat shields, what were some of the other big findings from the Starship 4 launch that you guys are implementing for and preparing for this upcoming launch?
Well, there's really, between each flight, there are hundreds of changes on both the ship and the booster. Many of them are very sort of small, but they add up, cumulatively to significant changes. So, if you add up changes to the ship, the booster, and to the launch site, you're really talking about thousands of changes between each flight. So, you got really talented teams at SpaceX working on the stage 0, which is like the launch site. And stage 0 is as important as stage 1 and 2. So the stage 1 being the booster, stage 2 being the ship. So man, there's so many, and a lot of them people wouldn't. If I got into the details of it, people would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's gonna be like a little valve here and a line change here and a wiring routing change there, and a bunch of tweaks to the software, and so it's a whole bunch of things that are not like as easy to describe as upgrading the heat shield. There's now there's a much more significant change coming in a couple of flights from now. I think it's Ship 7, where we move the forward flaps more towards the rear. So this is what bugged me as a kind of design mistake we made with the ship initially, which is to have the forward flaps be symmetric with the rear flaps, where the forward flaps are at 180 degrees. And you really actually want the forward flaps to be kind of in the lee of the wind. I'm cautious about getting into too much technical detail that maybe doesn't make sense if you don't know about like rocket. But the way you think of how the ship steers itself is it's kind of like a skydiver, where the flaps are like the forward flap, they're like arms and legs. So it's really different from a plane. It's like, and then the forward flaps, you really don't want the forward flaps to be visible to the airflow, because you're really trying desperately to not have the engine side rotate forward and get into the hot plasma. So with I think it's Ship 7, the forward flaps get smaller, and they kind of they rotate back. I mean their hinge position, instead of being 180 degrees, is like, I don't know, maybe 150 degrees or so. And so the forward flaps are really just used as trim flaps. So that basically, in a nutshell, the flaps get smaller and lighter, the payload improves, and then there's continued improvements to the heat shields. The engines get better, so we're able to run engines at higher thrust with more reliability. And then a really big step change will be maybe in end of next year or something like that, where we get rid of the base heat shield and the ship heat shield, the engine side heat shield. So the engines do not need to be encapsulated with the next big revision of the Raptor engine, which is quite tricky. But that eliminates a lot of mass at the base of the vehicle and at the base of the ship. But the base of the ship and the booster both get a lot lighter, and the engines are more robust. There's a lot of Starship technical detail here, but and then also the payload will be comfortably above 100 tons to a useful orbit. So 100 tons to useful orbit with full reusability, where the booster and the ship come back to the launch site, means that the cost per ton to orbit is, I don't know, maybe about 100 times less than it has been in the past. And this is what would enable life to extend beyond Earth, and to build a self-sustaining city on Mars, which would maximize the probable lifespan of consciousness by, I don't know, many millennia, if not millions of years.
I'm going to pass it over to Kelvin after this, but one thing that's incredible about you, Elon, is how much in the weeds you are. I don't think I've ever seen any leader at any company be so involved in the weeds, and the fact that you can go as high and as low, literally, it's just truly amazing. So I'm going to pass it over to Kelvin, but that's just one thing that I've noticed about you, is that you're highly involved in everything you're doing, and you're able to step out bird's eye, but also get into the weeds.
Yeah, well, I drive the engineering design companies, so that's like relatively unusual. But that's I think a big part of why the companies succeed is because I understand the engineering, and I know when somebody, like my judgment whether somebody is great at engineering or design is quite good. So in terms of really having the most talented people, giving them the most responsibility, if you don't actually understand the engineering, then how do you know that somebody's a good engineer? So that's really important. So that's I think we're a very talented team, but in order to know that somebody's talented, you must also understand the engineering.
Elon, we're going to shift gears and talk about Tesla.
Sounds good. This is the Tesla takeover.
Now the X takeover, but we do Tesla takeovers all over the world now.
That's cool. By the way, guys, I just wanted to say thanks a lot for your support. It's super appreciated. Thank you.
I know Kelvin's going to follow up with a question, but I just wanted to say thank you from our organization for the support. Literally 2018, got my Tesla, started driving it, and I can't believe the amount of FUD out there on it and fake news, especially even in the Bay Area. And so
that's been that way,
But that's what dragged me into getting into this community and creating now these epic events. But I'll pass it over to Kelvin.
Yeah, Elon, so obviously a lot of Tesla fans here as well as SpaceX, but regarding on the Tesla side, can you give us any updates on any future models? Obviously, the robotaxi.
I can't do like product announcements.
At the X takeover, just joking.
I think a lot of what I've said, I said on the earnings call, or at least I try to, say what I think on the earnings call. The overwhelmingly important thing is achieving unsupervised full self-driving. So this is really profound, and hopefully a lot of you have gotten the chance to use 12.5 or at least 12.3.6. So the Tesla AI team, and it's a couple hundred. It's not a huge team. It's just a few hundred super talented engineers. But I do want to emphasize that it's obviously way more than me, but it's more than Ashok, and it's like it's like tough to recognize like 200 people. But I just do want to emphasize that there's it's actually a little more than 200 people that are really responsible for the full self-driving software side, and then we've got a great chip design team, because you need the chip it's going to run on something. So the Tesla AI chip, hardware 3 and hardware 4, and then upcoming hardware 5, which will probably be in volume production in 26. Yeah, 26. There's really great chip team, and then we've also got a great training cluster team. Like, it's actually very hard to run to build and run a large NVIDIA training cluster takes a lot of skill and a lot of work. The team's cranking 24/7 on building the south extension to the Gigafactory in Austin. And I was actually just touring the team last night, making good progress for installing the servers. But I do. It's like sometimes people think, oh, you just buy NVIDIA GPUs and plug them in, and they start the training and off you go. This is not the case at all.
It's magic.
It's super hard, actually. In fact, one of the tricky things that is kind of interesting if you've got a large NVIDIA training run, or any kind of like large training run, the power fluctuations are unlike anything you ever see anywhere else, because the GPUs are all running with extreme precision. It's like a symphony, like this massive symphony with, in the case of the installation at Giga Texas will be 50,000. It's like, imagine 50,000 instruments all moving in symphony. And what that actually causes, it's like actually extremely difficult, like a nightmare electrically, because when the GPUs go up, the power goes up, and the GPUs go down, power goes down. and this can happen at like 100 millisecond intervals. So it's actually quite a difficult thing electrically.
Sounds like a light show almost.
It's kind of like a light show. You just get these dramatic changes in power draw, and so and when you're at 50 megawatts, that can go from 50 megawatts down to 20 megawatts in 100 milliseconds. That's just very unusual. So and back up again. That is, building and operating the training center. So it's like quite a few pieces of the puzzle that need to be done, and we've got to record a lot of data, and feed that into the training system. But the net result is that it's really starting to become quite compelling, I think, with 12.5, and as I mentioned publicly, we've increased the number of parameters by a factor of 5. Now, one can't simply increase parameters. One does not simply increase parameters. Unless those parameters are useful and done in the right way, it doesn't matter. You actually have to have the parameters be the right. But each parameter is like just a number, but the numbers have to be correct. And you can think of what the AI is trying to do is effectively compress reality. So it's trying to say, like, okay, we're taking all this video in, trying to understand reality, compress it down to, a few gigabytes, really. Although I think that's steadily expanding, and probably end up being 20 gigabytes soon. But we're trying to compress reality into, I don't know, a few gigabytes is pretty hard. Um, and, um, and because the inference computer in the car is much weaker than, say, a GPU in a server center, it's only got like maybe 15 to 20% as much power. And so in order to make, if your inference computer is relatively weak, then you have to spend actually more effort on the training side in order to make up for the weak inference computer. Anyway, so, but it is working. I think it's doing really well. I think we'll see continued rapid improvements each passing week.
Speaking of light shows, Elon, I just want to say thank you for reposting and sharing our light show from X Takeover. Appreciate it. So I want to talk about battery technologies. What advancements are you most excited about in terms of battery technology? How will they impact the range of and efficiencies of future Teslas?
Well, I think it's important to note that even if there were no battery breakthroughs at all, I think you could electrify all road transport and all road and transport and all ships could be electrified. With even if there was zero improvements in battery technology. This may be an important point to note. Now, there will be improvements in battery technology, but even if there weren't, you could electrify all ground and water transport. For airplanes, you do need some improvement in the energy density, the gravimetric and volumetric energy density. So you ideally want to have about a 450 or 500 watt-hours per kilogram energy density. Which you can get, I think, in some. It's getting there. Like it's the, with some expensive cells, they're up in that region. But really, most of the R&D effort is in improving the cost per per kilowatt hour. So the cost of range, like how do you improve the cost of the battery pack in order to make the cars more affordable. And then, from a range standpoint, I think people are coming to expect a range of roughly 300 miles, I think, as being kind of normal, maybe a little above 300 miles. And that's if you're assuming that you're not climbing a mountain in cold weather. Because as you add more load, the range will decrease. On the other hand, if you're going down a mountain, your range will increase. I think we're really starting to see like a normal EPA range of above 300 miles as being kind of the normal standard. And then just figuring out how to build enough battery packs and scale it up. We're making good progress in the Tesla design cell, which is a design manufacturer cell, which is this is a hard problem. I mean, there are entire companies that's all they do. But the rate of progress is good. And but like I said, no major breakthroughs. There's a lot of work just to say like how many gigawatt hours of cells need to be made every year to really transition the world to a sustainable energy economy. It's actually, hundreds of gigawatt hours per year, ultimately perhaps thousands. And a lot of it will go to stationary storage. So for pairing wind power with stationary battery packs and solar power with stationary battery packs, and just overall improving the efficiency and stability of the grid with the stationary battery packs. That's actually quite a big deal. So, yeah, but overall, I feel like things are progressing at a good rate.
So I've been, when you think of a lot of the OGs that I've met over the years who've been following Tesla, I'm fairly late to the game, but it's crazy. Even since 2018, going from being weeks, if not days, from bankruptcy to how the company has been going from ramping to 5,000 Model 3s into full self-driving. And the one thing, I mean, I always knew that I was driving a robot at the end of the day, but never did I think, I guess maybe I was just limited in thinking that we would ever create humanoids in Tesla specifically. And again,
Yeah.
how would you say, as also too, Tesla is an AI robotics company, how has that just changed the outlook for Tesla, just having these bots maybe, ramping to being in the factories? And you've made comments about how you believe, Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world. And so, how is robotics...
Yeah.
So how has robotics, humanoids just impacted the valuation view and really the vision for the company?
Right. Well, I mean, you can think of the Tesla cars as essentially robots on four wheels. So it's really profound, and I'd recommend just giving demonstrations of the self-driving capability to people, to friends and family and stuff, because if you take a Model 3 or Model Y, I mean it's a good-looking car, but it doesn't look like it has like super intelligence, it looks like it's a good-looking electric car, but it doesn't look like it's like. I use the analogy like, let's say you had a cat, and it looks like a normal cat, but actually your cat can talk and jump up and do like a hat and cane dance and do like a musical.
Are you talking about Garfield?
Like let's say you had a sentient cat that could talk and sing and dance. But people look at the cat on the couch and the cat just looks like a normal cat, until it jumps up and does the song and dance, and it's like, whoa, wow, what was that? So that's the thing with the self-driving, is that sure, the Model 3 Y, they're good-looking, normal-looking cars, except ours can basically sing and dance, and it's intelligent and can drive from one place to another. So, just demonstrating that to people kind of blows their mind. So I'd recommend doing that, because that's really key. And then for the Optimus robot, that's really an extension of what we've learned with the car. So the car is a robot with four wheels, intelligent robot with four wheels, and Optimus is an intelligent robot with arms and legs. So, in the case of Optimus, we have to design every part of the robot from scratch. The muscles that operate your hand are actually located in your forearm.